Self-love also means not shaming yourself, not blaming yourself, not like immediately forgiving yourself, basically treating yourself like you are the creator.
I want to double click on something that you said, that it doesn't have to look like some big T trauma. Like, it is so personal to each of us.
And if you don't believe in yourself, those next steps are never going to naturally line up. Like, back through the universe isn't necessarily telling you no, it's yourself and your past limiting beliefs.
The next pillar is feeling your feelings fully. Feel your feelings, emotional intelligence.
You're taking embodiment to a whole new level. I love that.
Like, what do the tools of self-love embodiment look like to you?
Those are the moments when we have these big life crises or breakthroughs or portals, as I like to call them. We portal into a new destiny.
Welcome to Going Goddess, the podcast where empowerment meets embodiment and divine feminine energy leads the way.
We're your hosts. I'm Silver Luna.
And Cherry, your chief empowerment officers and cosmic hype girls, here to remind you that your magic is not up for debate.
Every week, we're bringing real talk, rituals, and rising woman energy straight to you. Whether you're just soft launching your inner goddess journey or you're leading a full-on revolution, you belong here.
Let's go, Goddess. What's up, goddesses? We are back. I'm your host, Cherry. I'm here with
Silver Luna. Hey, goddesses.
Yes. And today we have a guest who is the real freaking deal when it comes to guiding women back to their flow and their freedom. Women, men, non-binaries. Elli Richter, our very special guest, is near and dear to my heart. She has been in my life since college, so over a decade now. And I say that Elli has ushered me through the portal to every next level in my life, whether she knows it or not. And I'm so excited for you guys to get a taste of that today for yourself. Elli is a subconscious wizard. She is the founder of Subconscious and Somatic Integrative Therapeutics. And she is dropping a line of tea for your central nervous system, for your body overall health and wellness, called Nirvana Brew, and it's dropping this weekend. So it'll be out by the time y'all hear this. Of course, we'll drop everything in the show notes, but welcome, Elli Richter. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here with you, bunnies, and so excited to connect with all you goddesses out there.
I'm so stoked to have your F yes energy, your fuck yes energy in our midst today.
Me too. Welcome, Elli. I'm so excited to have you on. It's been a pleasure getting to meet you already. And I'm excited to hear about our subconscious and how we can become badasses without even realizing it. Yeah. So, Elli, you often talk about how subconscious patterns and trauma loops keep people stuck. Can you break that down for our listeners? What are some signs that they're being driven by these old programs?
I love that question. And I want to start with that our birthright is joy and peace. And when you look at a baby, hopefully, unless they're born into trauma, let's just for a second talk about a baby not born into trauma, your complete pure consciousness, God consciousness, highest vibration. And you go through all emotions easily without shame. And you know your needs, you cry when you need something. And when you grow older, then you dream big. You have no fears. You have no limitations. Anything is possible as a kid. When you talk to a 5-year-old and you ask them what they want to do, anything is possible. There is no fear. And then eventually we are taught and programmed during this time what to be afraid of, what's right and wrong, what we get rewards for, what we get punished for. And we form patterns. And patterns and patterns and patterns, and the inability to then dream big or go for it. And now trauma is anything that's emotion, creates an emotional charge. So what's traumatic for you might be different for me, and vice versa. So the term trauma, it could be also replaced with the word stress or emotionally charged. So typically, let's just say if a child is born into trauma, let's just say a child is born into a cult, or a child is born into parents that deal with addiction or neglect or abandonment, then as a child you don't even dream, you already have the limitations, so there's a childhood trauma, and then there's trauma that happens a little later on. And so when we have emotionally charged events, let's say you get bullied as a kid because your body might look different, or you're taller, or your parents do something different and you get bullied, and that feels emotionally charged. But it's not just that, it's also the beliefs that form as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, like you get bullied for your nose being too big, then you might have form a belief that you don't belong, or you form a belief that you're not good enough, or you form a belief that other people are going to judge you. And then based on these beliefs and the emotional charges that you have in certain situations, you start to act differently. You start to act differently than the 5-year-old may have, the fearless, free, like pure consciousness kind of being. That's in a nutshell how stressful events cause us to begin to change what we're doing and how far we go and the risks we take. So limiting beliefs form as a result of emotionally stressful events, and limiting beliefs also come from the noise we hear around us. So let's say you wanted to be an artist, Silver, and like you might have told you, I want to do this when I grow up. And your parents may have been, there's no money in art. You can't do that. Or your teacher may have said, like, you should really not think about art. You should go and become an accountant or something. I hear this again and again and again with people. They come to me and they're like, I really want to be an artist. But when I was in 5th grade or whatever, my teacher said that my painting sucked and I should make sure I'm not going to go that route. That happens so often. And so those are traumatic events, stressful events, emotionally charged events, that it's not just the event. And so when we go into it with a logical mind, we're like, oh, that wasn't a big deal, that happens to everybody. Yes, sure. And it's also the charge, and then what we made that mean about ourselves, others, and life, that then becomes a block. And because the subconscious is the deeply ingrained stuff that happens below level of awareness, we're often not even aware that it's that stuff that blocks us 20 years later, 30 years later. And we don't even know that on a conscious level. So where then another program forms, like, what's wrong with me? Why the F am I not further along? Like, why do other people go for it and I'm not? So I hope that kind of starts to answer your question.
Yeah.
But that would be like how trauma can block us literally in every area. And for women, what I've noticed, if it's always health, wealth, and relationships. So it's not just one area. Women that come to me and want to manifest true love, it also blocks their abundance financially, and it blocks the trauma, blocks also their relationship to their bodies, to their meat suit. So it usually is a trifecta. We tend to really don't like our meat suit, have trouble manifesting money, and then have trouble manifesting a partner that feels like it's actually aligned. So trauma will really limit our ability to receive and our ability to go for things.
Man,
Yeah.
that's so good.
And
We've talked about limiting beliefs a lot. We've never broken it down like that. So, like, listeners, you're welcome. Ellie, thank you. That is so good. And, like, the way that you describe it is something I think that we can all relate to in our own and start to see. Do I have a story like that? Like growing up? Okay, I do. What did that make me think about myself? And like getting us started on maybe figuring that out before it's like oh, I hit my head against a wall really hard for the 100th time trying to learn this lesson. I need big help. How
Yes.
we can start taking accountability for helping ourselves out. But like, what are some signs other than someone just saying, well, I just can't find love? Like, are there other signs that we might be driven by these old programs?
Well, yes. And I want to also backtrack. We're always driven by the subconscious and the programs that are in there. 95 to 99% of our reality is driven by the subconscious. And it's said that about 70% of our subconscious programs suck. and are limiting and are based on scarcity and fear and lack and separation. Even if you had a wonderful childhood and you love your parents, and this is just, I'm going to say this for those of you listening that are like, well, I didn't have childhood trauma. The word trauma can be misleading, and I'm just going to replace it with stressful events. Did you have stressful events? Did your parents get divorced? Did somebody die? Did a pet die? Did you get bullied in school? Did you kind of didn't get picked in sports class? Did maybe you get teased or bullied or moved? Or maybe there was a religious program that was really ingrained that made you feel ashamed about sexuality or stuff like that. So we all have stressful events. And if they happen in the first 14 years of our life, then they make a really big impact, because that's when our beliefs also form. And our beliefs, like you said, some of them are limiting. A limiting belief is basically a story we have that's deeply ingrained that keeps us from moving forward. And there's also conflicting beliefs. There's limiting beliefs, there's conflicting beliefs, where you have believe one thing and you also believe the opposite. And then you're like, I want a partner, but I don't want to lose my freedom, like two conflicting beliefs. So the symptoms can be anything, babe. Literally anything that people are bumping up against. In my opinion, it's always a subconscious program that's not supporting your conscious desire. So especially if you're actively wanting to co-create and you understand you're the co-creator of your reality, let me manifest things, then usually as soon as you say your desire, your subconscious is like, the fuck you want? Like you're going to be like, I want to manifest more money. Then your subconscious is, well, but you don't think you deserve it. So let me just actually ruin your reality. And when you then consciously say, I want more money, out of the sudden your dishwasher breaks and some sudden bill arises, or everything falls apart, because what's actually manifesting is your beliefs, not your conscious desires, And so the examples can be physical. A lot of people have random physical stuff, relational, that they just have a very difficult time either getting or maintaining relationships, financially. So literally, if you want to know where your limitations are in your subconscious, take a look around in your life of what's not working, and then you know where your limitations are. And really what it comes down to, I think, is an inability to feel our feelings and to not react to uncomfortable feelings. And that goes down to the somatic piece of my work, emotional intelligence. The first 0 to 14 years of our lives, we learn also our beliefs about emotions. So if as a kid, most kids are told, shut up, toughen up, and all emotions are shameful, or, children need to be heard, not seen, seen, not heard, or something, the weird sayings that we have. And again, that forms a program that we shouldn't have emotions, or we should feel this way, but not that way. And then what do we do when we avoid feelings? We go into patterns of controlling, judging, addictions, codependency, seeking validation, self-abandonment. And so that all goes down to avoiding feelings, including pleasure and joy. So I love talking about that kind of stuff. But ultimately, when we avoid feelings, we go into patterns, and that goes hand in hand with negative beliefs. And then we got ourselves these situations that we're in. So to answer your question, Cherry, literally anything that's not working in your life is a symptom of what's happening in your subconscious. And a lot of times it shows up physically as unmanageable emotions or as weird diseases. Every disease gets traced back to stress. Doctors agree. What is stress? Unresolved trauma in the subconscious and negative beliefs. That's it.
Yes.
So when really, really name it like that, that's what's going on.
That's intense. I mean,
am I talking too fast? I just get so excited.
No, it's so good. There's like so many things rushing.
Yes.
Something that's coming up for me is what is not felt will be dealt with. So if you don't feel it and feel it all the way out, because if you let it sit, it can rot, it can ferment into a poison and affect all these other things. My dog passed away about a month ago. We had to put her down. It's very sad. And I gave myself permission to go fully in, and we're scream crying on the ground. I'm writing a very sad poem. I'm recording myself saying this poem and I'm putting it out to the world because I am fucking sad. And I'm going to be really sad and I'm going to be loud about my sadness and I'm going to get as much sadness as I can feel and I'm going to transmute it into creativity. And now, like, yes, there are waves of like, oh, I miss her and I miss her and I love her, and it's not this debilitating like like there's joy in grief.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can feel it all the way through. And so that's an experience I've had. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is. Yeah, and it's really interesting to me that, I mean, everything starts with the limiting beliefs and everything begins with the childhood and all the way up until you're 14. It makes complete sense, but also it's fascinating to hear the front end of what we've been talking about for so long, talking about our limiting beliefs. And I also just was thinking earlier this morning that, whenever there's so many obstacles before you, then it's the universe telling you no. But maybe if I question that a little bit, it's not so much the universe telling me no as much as maybe the work that I haven't done on myself yet that hasn't prepared me for what the next step is on that goal that the universe is saying, no, you need to hold on.
Yeah. I love that comment. And I personally am a very spiritual person. And two things. One, programming starts in utero. Like we inherit not just our mothers and fathers' programming, literally their subconscious trauma and beliefs, but also our grandparents. And sometimes I've worked with people up to 6 generations back, you know. However, and I'm of the belief, because I'm a huge human design fan, and with that I also study Kabbalah, I'm of the belief that our soul chooses this destiny, this body, these parents, the culture, the challenges, and even our obstacles and what our soul is here to correct. So when I talk about events that are stressful, aka trauma and limiting beliefs, I really want you guys to hear that I don't think we're victims to that at all. That's I'm not of that school of thought. I don't believe we're broken and need fixing. I think our soul signed up for this, and that may be hard to hear when you've had a very, very traumatic life. So did I. So I had a super traumatic life in like big T's, little T's. However, I choose a path of this that works for me and try it on for size, because when we do that, there is empowerment in these experiences. And whenever we position ourselves as a victim, it just sucks all the life force out of us right away. And I do think there's a time for everything and a place for everything. And so taking your story seriously is really important. So imprinting starts literally in utero. So my mother was grieving her mother's passing while I was in utero. So my emotional set point, until I found subconscious reprogramming technique, my emotional set point was melancholy, grief. And unless I would do techniques like yoga or breathing or meditation or positive thinking, if I would stop that for a day or two, I would sink back to my set point of melancholy. And I kind of white knuckled for decades to feel better. And when I didn't do self care, I was just back at the negative set point. Now I reprogrammed that, not by talking about it. You can't talk your way out of trauma. I reprogrammed that on a deep level, on a visceral level. So now my set point is back to where I was as a little girl. Joy, peace. Although I was kind of born into trauma a little bit, but so I like to believe that, like, I'm just at my natural state now. And so I have my emotions. I get angry, I get sad, I get scared. Like everybody else, I feel guilt. However, I don't feel that as my set point anymore, if that makes sense. So the program starts early on. And then the first 7 years is when our brainwave states are basically so slow that we're in a hypnotizable state. So during that time, everything we hear, feel, see, touch, experience, like sometimes I see mothers with their babies and they're on the phone and the kid is in the car and they're saying all kinds of things. I'm like, yeah, that kid's listening. Like your kid's listening to what you're saying there and they're programming. And are you sure you want to say that around your kid? So it's really fascinating to me, the programs that are forming during that time. And it's everything you experience in 7 years. So everyone has negative beliefs because of that. Even if you have wonderful, conscious parents, and you love them and they love you, there might be stuff there that's limiting or conflicting or shame based or scarcity based or fear based, you know?
Totally. And I want to like double click on something that you said, that it, it doesn't have to look like some big T trauma. Like, it is so personal to each of us. And like, I don't know, it was the way that someone looked at you when walking down the street, like level one, and that stuck. And that counts. Like, that is it. So I want to give like that permission slip to our listeners that like maybe felt like everything's great, but I'm dealing with limiting beliefs. Like, where could those come from? It's like, go ahead and look. And it's okay.
Absolutely.
No shame. It can be anything.
Yeah, this is like the one of the patterns that I mentioned earlier when we don't have never learned how to feel our feelings fully without shame or judgment. One of the patterns is comparison. It's a big pattern people talk about. Comparison isn't the problem. The problem is not feeling your feelings fully. And so if you don't feel your feelings fully and you don't understand your feelings, you might go into a pattern of comparison. So we even compare our trauma stories, you know. And in my experience, I've been a coach for, I don't know, 25 years. I've worked with thousands of people. The last 7 years, particular, I've focused on subconscious change. And I meet a lot of people that had a beautiful childhood, no big T trauma technically, and they have more blocks and more challenges than people that had the big T because they carry so much shame about it. They tell
Mm,
themselves, I have everything. Like, I meet so many people who are so successful on paper. I have everything. I have the partner, the house, the money, but I feel dead inside.
mm,
Why is that? Unresolved trauma and negative beliefs. And that usually goes back to safety, worthiness, and lovability and connection, like feeling like you belong. It's like usually always the same topics for everybody, no matter
mhm,
where you're coming from. I also work with people all over the world: Kuwait, India, England, Germany, America. It's like the same, no matter, and then culturally some difference, but ultimately it always comes down to the same topics and the not enough virus. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. I don't have enough. You know, it's just like always like that's the program. And then I don't belong. Everybody else is better than me, or I'm better than everybody else. And I'm just separate from, you know, and ultimately the journey that we're all on is home, that we're all one, all interconnected, capable, magical, fully whole, lack nothing. And that's the journey. And that creating that belief system, not just spiritually, but putting that into every cell of your body so you feel it, so you act like it. That's
mhm.
really what we're doing, you know?
You're taking embodiment to a whole new level.
I
I
love
love that. Can we like dive in a little bit more? You're the founder of Subconscious and Somatic Integrative Therapeutics,
Yes.
and yeah, and kind of like your journey into that. 'Cause when I met you, you were at a very different place,
Yeah.
and still so freaking impactful. So, yeah, how can we embody that, and what is your journey there? I guess all the things.
Let me feel for a second. So professionally, it's like it's. I always like to tell this in two tracks. You know, on the one side was my own personal journey as a being, as a spiritual being in the human experience, and then my professional journey. So, um, when I was born and raised in Germany, my childhood was pretty challenging. My dad and I we butted heads, and he was of the school of disciplining your child with physical violence. So there was a lot of physical violence that I experienced, and based on that, a lot of limiting beliefs and unworthiness and self-hatred. So my pattern became self-hatred. All this anger that I felt towards my parents, I turned it inward and I hated myself. And my self-hating patterns, the inability for me to really feel my feelings and regulate my nervous system, I was never regulated until really much older in my life. So my nervous system was fucking bonkers. I started smoking cigarettes at 15, smoking weed at 15, alcohol at 15. But there was also always this really beast inside of me that never let get myself sink too low. My parents were very educated, highly intelligent, so that it was a bit of a mind fuck. Highly educated, but then also not very good parents, or you know, did the best they could. And so my pattern started early, and I developed eating disorders and an underactive thyroid because I stopped feeling my feelings. I remember sitting around the dinner table at like 13. Everybody was crying. My dad was screaming. And I remember saying, all of you guys are weak. I'm going to not feel anymore. I'm just going to go numb. So I dissociated, started smoking, started checking out because all that emotion, I just didn't know where to go with it. And my dad had always said feelings are stupid and silly. So I decided, I had that program sunk in. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not going to feel anymore. So I didn't feel. And the result of that was a thyroid underfunction, low thyroid. So I started gaining weight, getting depressed. And then in college, I was just falling asleep, falling asleep, falling asleep. And eventually I got diagnosed with underactive thyroid, started taking medication, started to get really interested in holistic health. And in college, actually, backtrack, my first job was at an all women's gym at 19 because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to study music, and my parents wanted me to become a doctor. And so, there was that. And so I ended up becoming a physical therapist. And there's more to it, but just for the purpose of time, I'm just going to say that. So I became a physical therapist. And when I started working with, and before I went to college, I also worked at an all women's gym and really discovered a passion for coaching and empowering women and movement, somatics. Really, what it really was is somatics, right? So I was so traumatized that moving my body helped me to get into my body, at least for the time being. I could never hold it, so I would go teach classes and then smoke cigarettes, but I would coach myself and be like, it's fine. I'm going doing it Thursday through Sunday, and like I just had all these rules that I created for myself and all this rigidity that started, just to control, which is another pattern. Unmanageable feelings, nervous system wrecked, found a passion for movement, became a physical therapist, really realized I have healing abilities, and or that's what I'm meant to do. So I knew my life purpose pretty much at 19, that I'm meant to help people. And I just was really curious about how. And as a physical therapist, in Germany, you see 3 people in an hour. So I just felt like really ineffective once I got into that profession. And then I met my ex-husband, who you know, Cherry, right? So, and he was American, and I followed him to the States. We got married. I was 23 when I got married, which on another podcast, maybe I'll tell you guys, I don't recommend getting married before your frontal lobe is formed.
Good call.
At the time when I came to America, I watched a lot of TV, and there was Dr. Phil, right? And Dr. Phil would recommend that you get married after 27, after 28. I would say now, even later on, because our frontal lobe forms at 26, 27, and our Saturn return is at 28. And your preferences and what you want to do really changes. And of course, a lot of people will be happily married and zero judgment, and there's something there. Anyways, I got married super young. And when I immigrated to America, my medical degree wasn't transferred. So I was just kind of like, shit, what do I do now? And also, yay, I get another chance. So I started working as a holistic coach in gyms, health and fitness and nutrition. Because as a physical therapist, and I had already done women's coaching, I love that. It was an easy transition. And so I created all these programs, and I empowered women with self-love, and I taught people how to love themselves. Meanwhile, I didn't love myself. Like because my programs were self-hate. And even though I pep talked myself, I looked in the mirror, and it was just like I was subconsciously running on self-hate, consciously wanting to love myself. So what happened is the more I evolved consciously, and I did a lot of conscious work. I got sober, and I just worked with a conscious mentor, and did a life coaching. I became a life coach, right? And I did all that on a conscious level. But what really was always the undercurrent was the subconscious program of self-hate and of lack and limitation and unworthiness. So I was really gaslighting myself for a long time. When life coaching is really wonderful to me. And it also, unless you integrate it at a belief level with subconscious, it becomes white knuckling.
Yeah.
And eventually you just white knuckle. And then you might start with practices, and yay, for a year or two you're riding this high on this honeymoon phase of like, I'm manifesting, everything is better and more positive and my habits are better. And then to me something happened, and it was my divorce. It turns out that it turned out that our marriage wasn't actually what it was, and a lot of stuff was revealed, and my entire world as I knew it, whoa, done, like from one day to the next. And then I was like, all this shit came out, and for me I needed something deeper, and I realized I've been evolving my conscious mind, learning so much. I knew it all, could have written all the self-help books, I was doing great teachings, blah blah blah, people had great results, right? But my undercurrent was still self-hatred, so much trauma, so much unresolved stuff, and it all came crashing down. In today we call this unintegrated or lack of embodiment, you know. And when I look back at it, I had to really forgive myself also for the lack of embodiment I was in, and maybe causing harm unintentionally with just teaching stuff from a conscious level, and I wasn't embodied, you know? And it's not a judgment on myself. It's more like a fact. I wasn't embodied. I was operating on a mountain of trauma. I was white knuckling self-love and manifesting. It was really hard. I had to do self-care every day. Otherwise, I would slip into patterns. And when I slipped into patterns, I was shame holding, I was binge eating, I was occasionally smoking weed, occasionally smoking cigarettes. Now, alcohol was easy for me to let go of because I was vain enough to be like, oh, it's calories, you know. There's other things I can numb out with, basically, you know. But to, then I had a real crisis of purpose, and that was 2013. I think I was 36. And, you know, my world as I knew it fell apart. I ended up with $800 in my name. I didn't know what I was doing. And everything I had been taught, I was disgusted by. I was disgusted by all the life coaching, by all the positivity. And I was like, this isn't fucking working. What the fuck? You know? So I don't even know how I bridged that. I think I just allowed myself to deeply grieve and feel all my feelings
Yes,
without
you did.
running. You know, I did.
Yes.
For 2 years, I just cried a lot. And at the time, I knew, my soul knew, I just had to feel my feelings. So I didn't numb out. I just felt my feelings. I think I used tobacco, actually. I rolled American spirits
I'll
and
say,
sat like I synthesized healthy food and American spirits, and Netflix. I wanted to always write a letter to Netflix. Thank you for all the wonderful movies that helped me cry, cry, cry. So, but I didn't. I chose not to go to a coach during that time, because it was coaching that felt like that actually felt like contributed to my fucked upness. But I also didn't resonate with therapy because you can't talk your way out of trauma either. So I just asked the creator to help me, you know, and at that time I also found human design. Now human design, oh, you know, spiritual awakening number 3, I learned that I'm a manifester. And if you know anything about human design, you're like, oh yeah, that's why she's not into that, this and the other, you know? So um, anyways, so, and then long story short, through human design, I found subconscious change with PSYCH-K. PSYCH-K is spelled PSYCH/K, stands for mind keys. It's the fastest, most effective modality to close trauma loops and change limiting beliefs. One and done. And yeah, I found that, and my entire life changed. And then everything I had already studied on a conscious level and on a spiritual level, gotten to, I just integrated into what's below the iceberg, underneath the surface. And then slowly but surely, I started to embody the things like self-love, self-worth, safety, you know, an actual confidence that doesn't come from pep talking myself, but a regulated nervous system. My nervous system finally started to be actually of such that I live in the window of tolerance now, not outside of it, you know, not like, and I don't need to meditate anymore. I don't need to do much anymore. I just naturally pop up out of bed and I'm like, what's up? And I'm able to feel my feelings and not go into patterns. And I'm so eternally grateful. And so that was the birth, like everything I learned. And I'm the type of person, If you know anything about human design, I'm a 6'3", so I learned through trial and error. And I have some friends that don't learn through trial and error. They're always like, Jesus, Ellie, your story is so like fucking, so much fucking experimentation. I'm like, yes, that's how I learn. And, now I'm finally at this age where my learning makes sense. And so then in 2020, when everything shut down, I had time and space, and the download came that I needed to put these things into a certain kind of pillars. And so I create pillars that I base my work on, subconscious change being the main pillar. The next pillar is nervous system care, really learning about your nervous system and being able to regulate it. The next pillar is feeling your feelings fully. Feel your feelings, emotional intelligence. The next pillar is connect to your intuition. Learn what your intuition, what a fuck yes and a fuck no sounds like. Listen to it. The next pillar is understanding your energy and your destiny, human design, gene keys, whatever helps you to understand your energy and your destiny. And the next pillar is community. So important to have your people. And so those are the pillars that I base my work on. And that's in a big old long ass nutshell. A little bit my journey. And then of course there's like my personal shit, parallel running to my professional stuff. So I did another college degree and I immigrated to America. So I have a physical therapy degree. I have a degree in health education psychology. And then recently I did a little micro bachelor from Harvard, just for shit builds. And I honestly like none of this is necessary. None of that is necessary. It's fun.
Yeah,
But my perception is that over the next 10, 20 years that we're going to learn very, very differently, that university degrees are going to disappear, and that our gifts are going to come online in ways that we can't even fathom yet. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. And we still live a little bit in a world where people need the degree to feel legit. And I definitely was in that program. I felt like I needed degrees to be legit. And ultimately, what I've created and what I base my work on is very little college education, very much life and certifications. So, if you're out there listening, I do think really good training is important and really good mentorship. And I think that we all have gifts, and when we use what's natural to us, that's exactly the path. And this is natural to me. I can do this all day long, never get tired of, and that's my jam.
Yes. Oof. I love this, and I love hearing your story again and again. And especially there's so many like moments that were so potent in my life. 2013 for you. We met before that. You helped me get over an eating disorder. We were going to work together and we got on the treadmill and you were like, so tell me about how you eat and everything. And I was like, well, I don't throw up anymore. I just work out like three hours a day or something stupid. And you're like, cool, we're not going to work together until you start loving yourself. Take care of yourself. I was like, okay. And like that, like, I want to work. I guess I'm gonna switch. So like that was the first thing, and then just following you throughout college and loving like your energy and not knowing that that's what you're going through. And then you wrote an open letter, uh, right, like at the divorce, and it rocked my world too. Just so you know, because I was like, I don't want to be that couple growing up. Like that's who I want to be. And then that couple came crumbling down, and it was like my world was shattered a little bit too, because like they're perfect. And what do you mean? Like their love isn't forever. And so like seeing you walk through that and owning it, and like I saw you, I think it was Juanita's, or it was a Mexican place. I was there with my friend Gretchen at the time, and you were in it and you were just like, fuck this, fuck the world. I'm not just, this is where I'm at right now. I'm just feeling this. And we were like there, like holding, like, yeah, girl. Yeah. Like fill it out. And it was like, it was intense. And it was so impactful for me to see you being so real and vulnerable and raw and honest, and then seeing you integrate and like grow, like then moving on, like since then of course, yeah, finding the human design and then the PSYCH-K and everything, and that's been so impactful in my life. So thank you for like sharing that. And I want to encourage like the parts where you're like, oh, I was like spreading shit. It's like, no, I was up leveling. I was getting the good stuff. You were yeah, that you were sharing, like it wasn't all shit, but I hear what you're saying. When we're not embodying it, like inner doesn't feel right. It feels a little hollow. Uh,
Yeah, it's like, in hindsight, and it's just part of the journey. It's called
yeah.
wounded healer. It's called wounded healer. When you teach something that you don't fully embody, and it's actually what you need to learn, it's called the wounded healer. So I was teaching self-love because I needed that the most. And every time I taught it, however, I would feel so much better, right? So it's like, it's this really interesting thing that I don't judge myself for it anymore. It was really important to teach that because every single woman that came to my classes or that I encountered, the negative self-talk is just out of control. And so it actually, the passion that I felt led me to all these practices to be like, no negative self-talk bunnies, and then but I was unaware of my own because it happens below level of awareness. That's just the fun part about the subconscious, sneaky as fuck, right? So
Yeah.
you can hear it in other people when it comes out of their mouth, but
Mhm.
it's so hard to hear because you're so used to the story that happens between your two ears. You
Mm.
look in the mirror and there's a story you
Mm.
know immediately. You look at pictures of yourself, story immediately. And so we don't even notice the amount of negativity because we're just used to it. We have nothing to compare it to. But it's easy to see in other people, and it's easy to tell other people, do this. That's all about coaching. In coaching, it's so easy to listen to someone and be like, well, I need to do this and this and this. But
Mm.
I like to now. I work on being the frequency that just hanging out with me, you feel like you don't want to negatively affect yourself anymore. That's
Yes.
what I'm working on because I know I don't need to save the world anymore. I used to be in such savior energy. So
And I have
that
to
was
say,
I've
You're
been.
awesome, Ellie. We know. No, I totally feel that, and it's like, no, you have it. Like, I'll be here while you figure it out. Like, I'll hold you. I'll hold
Yeah,
the space.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
and I gotta say,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool from the outside to watch like the full circle moment of all of this. I've heard Cherry's side of the story, and now I get to hear your side, Ellie, and then to also see you two come together and kind of rekindle on this moment and these very traumatic experiences that happen. And it's awesome to see like kind of a testimony to just like watch how you treat other people and how you talk to other people and the things that you believe and that you preach to other people and you tell other people. You are a living testimony to everything that you told Cherry along the way. I know I'm breaking down right now. I will get back up. And then you found the tools and you did get back up. And it's really awesome. Out of curiosity, I'm curious how, like, what do the tools of self-love embodiment look like to you?
Mm. I love that question. To me, because I'm so passionate about the subconscious piece, and because at the moment my observation of where we're at in humanity is that we are very evolved on a conscious level already. Like a lot of people are doing the conscious work these days, awakening and spiritually awakening. And there's three minds. We have this super conscious, the spiritual, we have the conscious, and then between that is that big subconscious. So if you ask me what are the tools, I think it starts at the seed level of belief.
Mm.
So when a person comes to me personally, I'd like to start at the seed level of belief and help you believe that you're worthy of love, believe that you can love yourself, believe that you are loving yourself. So these are basically beliefs that we're installing with PSYCH-K. And then you start acting on it. So if you have it already in your body, it's much easier to act on it. So then what does self-love look like in action? What the fuck is self-love in action? Well, for example, making yourself a healthy meal, saying no to something when you don't feel like it, you know, talking to yourself like someone you love, like we would never say to the shit we say to ourselves here, to someone else. So actually changing the dialogue, meeting yourself like a loving mom or loving dad when you have difficult emotions. To me, it again comes to difficult emotions, right? Self love also means not shaming yourself, not blaming yourself, not like immediately forgiving yourself, basically treating yourself like you are the creator. And then self-love in action, it's not a look, it's not how you dress, it's not your skincare routine,
Mm.
even though those are wonderful extensions of self-love. But to me, can you love yourself when you fucked up? Can you
Yeah.
love yourself when you went back into a pattern? Can you love yourself when you react in a way that you're not proud of? Can you love yourself when somebody is gnarly and comes at you with criticism? So to me, that's like how that I take it to extremes, like I like to explore all those corners. So yeah, it starts always for me at a seed level of belief, because you can like, it's easy to love yourself when you regularly go to the gym and you like crossed your to-do list and you're like, I love myself, yay. But what if you get your period and you feel like shit and you're feeling bloated and you haven't been to the gym, and then you're like, haven't posted on whatever, and all these things that you have in your head that make you a good person, that you've been programmed to believe make you good, worthy, lovable. What if you haven't done those things? Can you unconditionally love and accept yourself, and not make your self-worth or your lovability attached to how you look, what you've done, how much you've given, or how much you help people, or how productive you are? I had to also come to grips with this meat suit getting older. I used to have like a lot of my lovability attached to how I look, and like being able to love myself when I look good, it's easy. When you don't look good, well, fuck, can you still love yourself when you get wrinkles and shit starts to sag, So that's self-love in action, seed level belief. So it's in your body. And then every single day, every moment is an opportunity to be more like the light, more like the creator. And that's just be unconditional love to yourself.
Yes.
I love this answer because it ties back to the very first answer that you gave us, which was about manifesting the next steps. And if you don't believe in yourself, those next steps are never going to naturally line up. Like back through the universe isn't necessarily telling you no, it's yourself and your past limiting beliefs that you don't know that you need to heal, your trauma that you
Yes.
need to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Something that was coming up for me on that is like, love isn't transactional. Like true love isn't, and that includes for ourselves. So like, what happens when you're no longer proving to yourself by going to the gym, by all the self care, by all the everything? I proved I love myself. Look at me. It's like once you don't have any more proof points. Let's say we remove all of those. Do you love yourself? Like the transaction is the love there, and if not, let's figure out how to unlock that, spark that again for you.
Well, there's self-love that feels like white knuckled. You can tell when someone's energy is white knuckled. I love myself because X, or white knuckled. Or when you just like open palm, right? Soft. And not soft in a performative way, but truly just relaxed in your being. I joke with my clients. So I have a lot of male clients these days who I'm super grateful for. Just when your butthole is relaxed, that's the place we hold the most fear and shame and scarcity. And just notice it, like how tight you get in your butt and in your perineum when you're in fear and shame and lack. Like next time you're in that energy, just like check your asshole. Like,
That's amazing.
oh, my guy clients would text me, they'd be like, are we on for 7? I'm getting my asshole relaxed. And I mean, not in a sexual way, just like in a really funny way. Just like, yeah, because when we shed our programs, when we shed our trauma, everything starts to relax, because our natural state is relaxed, joy, peace. That's our natural state. So self-love, when it feels open palmed, soft, when your butthole is relaxed, you're in love,
Yes. Yes.
So
I think that is like I can just stand there and like you just take me or leave me. It doesn't matter because like I'm in love with myself. I
yes.
have all the love that I've ever like. Yeah, I have all my love here. That took a lot of healing, I think. Yeah. Working through it and working with you also and doing PSYCH-K.
Yeah. Or whatever you do. The path is, I do want to name, truth is one path of many. I happen to be super passionate about this path, and it may sound like I think it's the only path. That's not what I think. I have seen it that some people can just upload a new belief. They're just boop. I am someone that had a lot of conflicting, and because I did so much conscious work without ever integrating my subconscious, I have this opinion that when you do a lot of conscious work without integrating it subconsciously, even somatically won't integrate it into your subconscious a lot of times, that there's another problem that arises, the dissonance, and that creates more complication than were there before. Sometimes when I work with people that never experienced any coaching or therapy, they have the most amazing results because they haven't already done the I know it all, and I've done, they're just kind of a little more open and curious. And open and curious is the opposite of judgmental. And so open and curious is a really important place to be. So, so for me, I needed something to really get in there. And not everybody is like me, but if you tend to have a lot of if you resonate with this, and maybe it resonates with you too. But there's other modalities and other ways. There's truth is one path of many, many, many.
Would you say like for like the subconscious integration work, does that needs to be with a coach, like with someone else, like working with you, like you are a facilitator of subconscious work. My life coach Celia, like we do a lot in the energetic space, and she's doing a lot of like shamanic training, and so I get to reap the benefits of that with her, and like in our work together, and I feel it, and I feel like the lifting, and then just I see life differently and think differently, and just am different. And so, would you say like, does it need to be facilitated by someone? Can someone do subconscious, like, because we can't? How do we access it? Like, what do you think?
I love that question. You can do things I do. Okay. I think both. Sometimes with the subconscious, we don't see our blind spots. So the sacred space of being witnessed by someone is about having somebody help you see the things that you don't see, hear the things that you don't hear because of familiarity. So I might not notice that I'm saying a bunch of limiting beliefs because I believe them and they're so deeply ingrained. And I might tell you, well, that's not possible. I won't be able to do that, or that's really hard for me. And unless somebody points out, hey, have you thought about that's a limiting belief? And then I'm like, oh shit, So what I love about PSYCH-K is you can do it for yourself if you get trained in it, and if you are conscious enough to be able to witness yourself, you can do it for yourself. My experience has that even my friends that are colleagues, we work with each other to be witnessed, so that you have someone to help you ask questions and make the unconscious conscious. Making the unconscious conscious is self-awareness work. That's what a lot of coaching is about, to become aware. But once you're aware, then how the fuck are you going to change it, right? Talk therapy, coaching, it makes stuff aware. But then what do you do with this awareness? And that's where subconscious integration comes in. So I help people do both, bring stuff to light, and then clear it. So everybody is different. Some people don't like working with somebody. They want to do it themselves. I think anything is possible and available these days. Personally, I'm a big fan of being witnessed. And when you have somebody that's good at it, it's like beautiful, and whatever works for people, 8 billion realities, 8 billion ways.
And like something that we talked about earlier, connection being like the sacred energy. And I think like, especially with the advent of AI and all of these things, like it's not going to be like what you know, but how can you connect with others and like truly connect with them on like a soul level. And so why not like connect with someone who's like this, yeah, I can help you here, and like, let's get this done together. There's no shame in like having a coach. Like coaches need coaches, leaders need leaders, like all of it. And so yeah, I have this like beautiful vision of like we're like grabbing hands all around the world in all these like different ways, and like healing in different ways, but it's all lifting our like the greater collective consciousness and subconsciousness as well. Yes, anyways, I can digress on that.
I love you. It's true. And I think talking about this is also like, look, I love working with people with trauma, just because, and to me, I think when you have trauma, it's very helpful to have a safe space. It's very helpful to have a place where you're witnessed and you're really learning to commune with another human and to not be judged, and to, so in that sense, I don't believe everybody needs something, because that would be me having a belief that people need me. And I really looked at that, especially recently. I want everybody to reach all their goals and then some. I want everybody, including people that do bad shit in this world. I want everybody to be happy, happy, wealthy, and get love and have all their dreams come true. And that means I also believe on some level, nobody needs me. Nobody needs me or my work. It's not a needing. If you want to,
Yes.
it's here. It's fucking awesome. It's gonna really help you. And I don't believe in people needing me or my work. I believe that people are their own gurus and that the creator is the ultimate. And I do believe that these tools and resources are incredible and really help a person fast track some stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I did say coaches need coaches and leaders need leaders. You're right.
Well, I mean, maybe they do, but like ultimately, we're all connected to the same wisdom. We're all connected to the same wisdom if we look within. Sometimes, though, everybody I talk to has limiting beliefs. When you go to any workshop that's about manifesting or goal setting or visions, it's like, what could be in your way? Limiting beliefs. What could be in your way? Trauma. And then I'm like, yeah, I specialize in helping you hack that within 5 minutes. Let's do it. So I'm just passionate about it.
And all of this is related to emotional intelligence, right? This is like, that is the ultimate superpower that you're harnessing here, right?
It is. I mean, yes, and having really great, like elevated consciousness. So it's
Mhm.
it's about evolving your consciousness. Subconscious work really helps you evolve your consciousness. When your belief match your spiritual knowing, match your conscious desires, when all three minds are aligned, it's a it's it's like
Alignment.
a feeling of oneness and connection that you feel, and freedom and authenticity. And then emotional intelligence comes with that. But to me, it's consciousness. It's a
Mm,
matter of
yes.
consciousness,
The
you
base,
know?
basically.
And so if I evolve my consciousness just at the level of logic and I never change it at the level of belief, that's the dissonance. If I spiritually evolve, but never change the trauma, that's called spiritual bypassing, right? And that's also, there's a misalignment and a disconnect that we may call lack of integration or lack of embodiment. So here in California, people do a lot of plant medicine. They evolve spiritually. They can tell you, I've seen God, but it's difficult for them to live it every day because the subconscious hasn't integrated. Or if you do a plant medicine journey, you might realize you're totally perfect, whole, and worthy, but you come back into your meat suit after that journey and you're dysregulated in your nervous system because it's never actually touched your programs. And so our programs create our level of consciousness, create our reality. So to me, it's really what I help people with is elevate consciousness.
Oof,
It's,
so good.
it's,
Um, like,
I have so many questions.
yeah. But we are coming up on time, so obviously we're gonna have to do another like an episode two.
Yes. I would love to do another one. What I would love to do is what people want to know more about. I love answering questions. So if anybody has a question, so here for it. Um, I would like for everyone to know, especially for you that is just in this transition where you are realizing you don't have to do things the way you've been taught. When you guys shared with me, your target audience is 25 to 34. So around that age, we kind of realized we don't have to do what we think we should be doing. You might realize you're not into the same political party as your parents. You're not into the same religious belief. You're not into the same eating style or habits, especially around 28 and you sat on return. You're like, wait, I don't even like the bar and drinking anymore. And so, like, those are the moments when we have these big life crises or breakthroughs or portals, as I like to call them. We portal into a new destiny. And if you're listening, there's never anything wrong with you. And the belief that you're broken and need fixing is the very belief that keeps you from actually elevating. So, you are already whole. You're already whole. You lack nothing. All your desires are fulfilled. What's meant for you cannot miss you. And there are so many beautiful ways and resources that can support you. And you are whole. And it's totally like your destiny and your journey. There is no competition for your life purpose. There's no urgency to make anything happen. I happen to be a bunny. My life is just getting started and I'm 48 now. And I feel like I'm just getting into the best times of my life. So, there is no timeline for anything. And remember that a lot of the stuff we struggle with are just patterns because we are never been taught to actually feel our feelings. And feeling our feelings fully and giving ourselves permission to feel without a story, without analyzing, without guilting, shaming, judging, that's so freaking powerful. So if you're feeling sad, or if you're feeling scared, or if you're feeling guilty or angry, so much permission, and you don't need to react to it. What if you just felt it, transform your reactivity, just feel, and then choose to respond to it with self-love and self-acceptance? If you can just practice that, you know,
That
that'd be
conscious
great.
decision. Yes.
Conscious decision. I'm feeling scared and that's okay. I don't need to go on Instagram or chat GPT and analyze my life. Like there's so many examples I could, you know.
Under a
Yeah.
microscope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this plays into Silver Luna has been walking us through Brene Brown's Dare to Lead every
Mhm.
morning in the Goddess Collective, and so like listeners, where can you be vulnerable with yourself? Be vulnerable with yourself first. Let yourself feel like,
Yes.
oh, I'm pissed. Like, don't shove that down. You're pissed. That's okay. Like,
Yes.
yeah, or whatever it is. But yeah, vulnerability with yourself first. Man, this is awesome. It's so good, and like not, I feel like not even close to scratching the surface on everything that I want to talk about with you. Would love to hear about Nirvana Brew so we can help support that and promote that as well.
Yes. Yes. Well, first of all, I also want to tell you guys about my book, WTF is Human Design. It's now been out for a couple of years, and I think there's an amazing plethora of books and human design teachers. My book really focuses on lifestyle because so many people, I started with health and nutrition coaching, and there's so many shoulds in that world that I wanted with the woman that I co-wrote the book, Helen Hall. She's an amazing person. Follow her. She is living her truth up and down and around. It's just magical to watch her. And we were both like, there's so much noise in the health and wellness space. And human design is such a beautiful way to understand what works for you. And because it profoundly woke me up that I was overdoing everything. And that's why I was so eating disordered, and you're a projector, I'm a manifestor. So we're overdoing everything. And so I found what works for me and found a healthy path. I'm off my medications for my thyroid with PSYCH-K and human design, knowing just, I go to the doctor once a year to get data, and my data is always great. I take 2 supplements, creatine and magnesium, and that's it. And I eat according to my human design. I don't drink alcohol. I don't abuse drugs. So like there's a way that I found just through living my design that aligned all my health, wealth, and relationships. So that I'm really excited about. So if you want to start somewhere and you don't want to do anything about read, maybe that's a good place. Nirvana Brew is a nervous system care tea that helps you downshift your nervous system at night, so for sleep. And there's also an antidepressant herb in there, St. John's wort. So it supports people that want to do behavioral changes, like get sober, or that are going through grief, or are going through a really hard transition, or just in general have a lot on their plate and are not yet ready to like be super proactive about it. Everybody can drink a tea at night, like, but not everybody is ready to actually make a lot of changes, because when you're really overloaded in your nervous system, making any changes feels terrible, right? It's like if somebody's like, hey, go to the gym, hey, do this, and you're like, oh, I can barely fucking function, So I wanted to do something that helps people. And what's so beautiful about this tea, it's my dad's recipe. And my dad was a pharmacist. He died 9 years ago. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we had a really rocky start, but my dad's and I relationship is the proudest accomplishment in my life. We made it back together while he was still in his meat suit. I coached him to die. We had beautiful years together. And I'm really proud of that. And so now I finally got around to making this tea. And as a pharmacist and manifesting generator, he was just brilliant. and he offered people herbs and oils and holistic offerings next to chemistry and said to them, here you can choose. You want this route or that route? And he was like way ahead of his time. This was like 30, 40 years ago. And so he had this recipe and he gave it to all the people in the villages in Germany, and they lowered their blood pressure, got rid of diabetes meds, slept better, were nicer to their spouses, And so now I'm really excited to give this to people or bring this to people and see what happens. Nirvana brew.
Oh, I love it. We'll include all of that in the show notes. And I want to thank you so much for making that specifically. I'm at a place in my life coaching curriculum where we're experimenting with different ways of eating and like biophotons found in raw food and all these things. And I was getting caught up in this, like, ugh, if I know better, I'm supposed to do better, but I don't want to just like only eat carrots right now. And to have these little things that are like the gentle movements in. And that's what like Celia is like, boo, you're going, that's not, you're going crazy on that. Like, journey. We start small and we start gentle and we start making these choices for ourselves, like drinking that tea at night. That's like building trust in ourselves that we want to make this change. And it's, I love that you made a gentle entry point.
Agreed.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's been really awesome to do that. And my belief is also that, a lot of people eat perfectly, but still have so much judgment and fear around it. It's not so much about what we eat, but our consciousness around it, our consciousness around it. So, yeah, and everybody has a different preference. Everybody's very different. So I no longer teach nutrition because of that, because everybody's so different. But I invite people to look at their human design and digestive type to understand what naturally works for their energy, and then they can play around and experiment and find their own way. And the tea, I think, is great for everybody unless you have a contraindication with St. John's wort. So research that, talk to your doctor about it, because it is an antidepressant herb.
Oh, nice. Good information.
Yes, exactly, right? Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, we will link all of the information both to your tea as well as to your book and any other links that you have for us, your somatic therapy, all of it. We'll link it in the show notes for our listeners. And thank you so much, Ellie, for your time. I can't wait to talk again.
You can find us on Instagram at Going Goddess Podcast and join our community of radiant rebels in the Goddess Collective on Facebook, a sacred space where we take these conversations even deeper.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. You're leading it.
Goddess vibes only. And as always, stay radiant,
stay empowered,
and keep going Goddess.